Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the facts with your host, Dan Bongino.
All right, today's going to be like drinking from a fire hose a little bit, so I need everybody to kind of zone in with me. There's a lot going on. We got the CR, we got Speaker Johnson, I think, unfortunately, folding on some stuff. Some updates on the Trump transition. Everything I told you was right. Everybody's panicking. Oh, my God. Not you guys, but the goofballs in the swamp. Oh, Trump is appointing controversial picks. Really? We were right again. I got that. An update on the CR and a piece of video by a liberal MSNBC fake news journalist. But it really kind of nails Donald Trump. I know that sounds crazy. Stay tuned. You'll see what I mean. It's an important piece of video. Try Beam's Dream Powder. Get up to 45% off for a limited time at shopbeam.com/Bongino. Use code Bongino at checkout. As I said, really big show for you today, the week before Christmas. Tell your friends to tune in because this CR is an absolute disaster, and it ties into a story I discussed yesterday, too. The CR, by the way, is this big bill full of junk and garbage you're trying to pass before Christmas. That's a big no-ski for me. As someone who lives a very public life and regularly shares content online, I am hyper aware of how my information is being tracked and used. Your personal information could be sold online right now without you even knowing. That's why I recommend Delete Me. Delete Me is a service that helps remove your personal information from hundreds of data broker websites and even the dark web. Go to joindeleteme.com/Bongino. Enter code Bongino at checkout now and tell your relatives too. Email addresses, phone numbers, even home addresses could be floating around waiting to be scooped up by scammers. It's scary, but it's preventable. This holiday season, take action. Help protect your privacy by getting a Delete Me membership. Get it for yourself and gift it to protect your family too. Help eliminate the worry about your information falling in the wrong hands. Give the gift of privacy and peace of mind with Delete Me. And right now, at a special discount for our listeners, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Bongino. Do it today. Protect yourself. Use promo code Bongino at checkout. That's an astonishing 20% off at joindeleteme.com/Bongino. Joindeleteme.com/Bongino. Use code Bongino. Don't let your personal information get out there. All right, fellas, let's go. I'm going to get to the CR, but I wanted to handle this first. Because, again, folks, when you're watching shows like this and others, we're not the only ones. We're the ones typically with our fingers on the pulse because we do a lot of research as to what the left is saying. I got a clip of a MSNBC reporter coming up next. But they'll never, ever pay attention to what we're doing without seeing us through some bizarre lens. Long and short of it is we're always ahead of the news cycle. I told you this Trump transition is going amazingly. They have learned a lot of lessons from last time. There are two big takeaways from this transition I want you to just really kind of tattoo on your brain that are different than 2016. Two. You ready? Number one, which I've mentioned before, but I'll mention again because it's important on how to analyze this whole situation and how to learn from politics. They learned from the Flynn scandal the first time, the Mike Flynn scandal. And when I say the Mike Flynn scandal, I don't mean a scandal involving Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn's a patriot. I mean the attack, the scandalous attack on Mike Flynn by the FBI and the media. I don't know if you remember what happened in 2016. Most of you do. Donald Trump announces that Mike Flynn, General Mike Flynn, is going to be his national security advisor. The Obama deep staters and others were terrified because Mike Flynn knew about what was going on with the Iran deal. You can look all of this up. It's in some of my books. If you feel like you get them from the library, so I'm not trying to sell you a book. You get the point. However, scandalous what happened with Mike Flynn. The media and the deep state wanted nothing more than to get rid of Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn wrote this manifesto about how the intelligence community was failing and failing America, and the intelligence community shit themselves, folks, how to get the wipies out. They were like, this guy's going to be the national security advisor. They're going to start turning over rocks everywhere. We're screwed. So what happened was they squeezed the Trump team, and someone gave Donald Trump bad advice, and they got rid of him. That started the whole, I'm telling you, the whole Russia thing started after that because it reminds me of the Jerry Maguire line. Jerry, do you know bees and dogs can smell fear? I don't think bees and dogs can smell, maybe dogs can. But I'm telling you, once they smelled fear inside the Trump team, it never stopped. Lesson number one, they learned from that. They're giving the double-barrel middle finger. You've got Tulsi up there today, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Matt Gaetz pulled his own name out. You've got Pete Hegseth. They are plowing ahead. I'm going to show you the receipts too coming up. Donald Trump's like, we're not pulling our guys out. You want to toy with us on the swampy Republican side? We'll primary your ass. The second lesson is they let the media now discredit themselves. Instead of responding to every single thing the media does, Trump is letting the media discredit themselves. He figured out that, yes, it is worth taking them on. But it's not worth taking them on every issue. Why? Because the Bongino army's here for that. Everyone in the chat, raise your hand, put a big hand waver in the chat. That's what we're here for. He doesn't need to take on every fight. Let them discredit themselves. He does not need to be knee-deep in every single thing. They learned that lesson. And I'm telling you, this transition has just been different. They have effectively learned to manage political capital. Hey, I need you guys to bust up the chat for me right now, too. We had a little Safari issue yesterday with the chat. Everybody put something in the chat right now. Just have Chris from Rumble's watching. Everybody wave to Chris. Hey, Chris, we love you, buddy, and we love the Rumble team. Can you break the chat? There's a little bit of a glitch on my Safari thing, so we need you to bust it up. Yeah, thank you. Fire that thing. Ha! Fire it up! Fire it up! I'm sorry to keep asking you this, but you guys, Rumble's for everyone. We want to make sure it works great, and the Rumble team cares so much, even if there's a little glitch. The Rumble team learns too, so unintended segue. We learn from all our little mistakes here and there. Man, that chat is really firing now. Gosh, if you guys are missing this every day at 11 a.m., join it. There's not a chat like this anywhere on the internet, anywhere, period. We're in charge. We can dissect the media stuff. They don't need to fight every fight. This transition is run so smoothly right now. And even Jerry Baker at the Wall Street Journal, who, let me say in advance, I like his work. He's not a Trump guy. I will pursue a broad spectrum of opinions trying to put my show together. We don't have to agree on everything. Jerry Baker at the Journal is not a Trump guy. But this article is worth your time. Trump is back, this time without disdain. As his domestic critics have gotten in line, so the world has saluted his restoration, if reluctantly. He's basically acknowledging in the piece that this is totally different this time, that Trump is coming into office with a massive amount of political power we haven't seen since 2004. We just haven't. And Trump knows how to use it this time. So I gave you my two takeaways. Flynn, and they're letting the media discredit themselves without jumping in on every single thing. They're learning to be more tactical. And Republicans are responding positively. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why I titled the show this day. This is Trump's GOP now. You don't have to like it. Nobody gives a shit. It doesn't matter if you like it. It just is. It doesn't matter. It's like saying, I don't like the fact that 5 + 5 = 10. Nobody gives a shit if you like it. That's what it equals. Here's a Harry Enton segment. He's a pollster over at CNN. So he has no reason, obviously, to lie about Trump's popularity. He's at CNN. They don't want to put on positive stories. But here, I want you to watch this segment about poll numbers about the Trump transition. Folks, the GOP approval for the transition is near universal, despite the media's transition hysteria. Oh my gosh, RFK, controversial nominees. Never listen to those losers. Always listen to us. Check this out.
There were some anti-Trump sentiments going on among GOP voters during his first term. What does it look like now for his second?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the same basic thing that we see in the United States and the United States House. All right, Republicans on the Trump transition. You go back to January 2017, it was 80% approved. Now, that's not bad. But, oh, my goodness gracious, look at where we are now. It's 96%. I mean, you can't get any more universal, basically, than 96%. Those that disapprove, look, it was 10% back in January 2017. Now it's down to, get this, it's down to just 4%. It's down to just 4%. So, look, there are no GOP opponents in the United States Congress. There are very few among Republican voters. This is Trump's party. Mitt Romney, 100% correct.
Folks, again, this is CNN. They have no reason to make Trump look good. They only have a reason to make Trump look bad. They're obviously ideologically opposed to every single thing he does. They hate the guy. They have no reason to do that. This is Trump's GOP now. Why do I put that out there? I'm never going to waste your time, man. I promise you. The show is meant to be entertaining, but I want it to be somewhat educational too. Because, folks, GOP voters approve of what he's doing, moving in a more populist direction. That does not mean we are going to agree on everything. We are going to have to reform Social Security. Obviously, Donald Trump disagrees. I know that it's mathematically impossible to balance the budget without it. He has had to make some political calculations there. It doesn't mean I agree with him. I obviously didn't agree with him on his abortion stance or criminal justice reform. However, his stance on foreign policy, his stance on federal regulations, his stance on school choice, his stance on the economy and growth producing agenda. I agree with all of that. His stance on the healthcare system, trying to things like right to try and other things he did. You're not going to agree with everything. The point is the numbers are the numbers. You can say all you want, if you're the Wall Street Journal or these old school kind of center-right Republican outlets like National Review, that Donald Trump's a plague on the Republican Party, but just nobody agrees with you. Maybe you're the plague on the Republican Party. I'm sorry. You just don't get it. And the man understands during this transition that the political power is in his camp. It's different than 2016. And I don't mean this as an insult, folks. I was never the president. I don't know what it's like to be a businessman and then, boom, you're the most powerful man in the world walking in the Oval Office. I don't know what that's like. It must have been overwhelming. That's not the case this time. 2016, the transition was, it wasn't chaotic. It was just a little not mission focused and a bit disoriented in the beginning. That's not the case this time. It is totally different. Here he is, Trump, in the presser the other day, warning people who don't get on board with this agenda. He has the political capital, and he's freaking going to use it. That if you're not going to get behind his nominees and his vision for where we should take this country with his cabinet, that they may consider a primary. And I'm going to tell you something. If you're in a red state doing it, they should definitely consider a primary. As I've said before, Susan Collins in Maine, that's the best you're going to get. But Murkowski, Joni Ernst, and others, you want to screw around, then you're going to politically find out. Check this out.
Should senators who oppose your nominees, your cabinet nominees, should they be primary?
If they are unreasonable, I'll give you a different answer, an answer that you'll be shocked to hear. If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primary. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I can see that happening.
He understands his political capital this time. He's in charge. It is his party. He moved the needle in a direction that hadn't been moved in a long time with minority voters, Hispanic voters, the working class. Honestly, I think we're catering a little bit too much in some cases to especially organized labor listen, I want to cater to the working class American. Organized labor's interest in specific spaces is not always in the best interest of working class Americans. And I know that sounds insane. Dan, it's the whole Mansur Olson concentrated interest and diffuse cost. Just because something may work for the steel industry in some small segment doesn't mean it works for workers across the country in the car industry that rely on steel. However, he gets it. He has moved the country in a more populist direction. He has moved the party in a more populist direction. Folks, this guy gets it. I'm telling you, he understands politics like no politician in our lifetime. I mean personal politics. I want you to listen to this. When even insane leftists at MSNBC like Stephanie Ruhle are acknowledging what I've repeatedly told you about Trump, I'm not name dropping anything. That's stupid and you sound lame. But I'm telling you, having known President Trump for a while now, there isn't a person that understands personal politics like this guy. That does not change my view of politicians. Everything should be viewed as a spreadsheet. They're a +1 or a -1. But I'm not going to bullshit you either. Listen to me, and I think you know this. Tell me in the chat. Please tell me you get this. Just because I view the world like a spreadsheet, politicians, I don't get emotional about anyone. You can be the biggest asshole in politics, and believe me, a lot of people have been assholes to me. They do stuff that works for the conservative movement. I'll champion it. That's fine. You can't ignore the fact that establishing personal relationships with shows like this and others, that it does make it hard to just view it like a spreadsheet. This guy understands personal politics like no one else. This is Stephanie Ruhle from MSNBC. You want to talk about the art of political persuasion? What she's saying here is absolutely true. She doesn't like Donald Trump at all, but this is worth every second. She talks about just dialing his phone number and he picks up. Guys, this happened before? I'm telling you, he will randomly call people for no reason. And it's like the craziest thing. Listen to this. I'll tell you another story on the other side of the break. Check this out.
And I'll tell you one other example. The day after Donald Trump had that crazy rally at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I
Garbage.
rolled the dice, and I called him on the phone. And he answered.
Of course he did. Of course. What'd he say?
And I wasn't calling to chit-chat. I said, Mr. President, this is Stephanie Rule. You made a lot of comments last night, blah, 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 blah. And it was not an on-the-record conversation. Long story, so I'm not going to get into what he said, but I called for one reason. I said, you just said a whole bunch of public things. I'd like to sit down for an interview with you. We got 5 days before the election. So we didn't get into anything. There's nothing for me to report. I called him and said, I want an interview with you. Obviously, he said no. But my point is, I was able to get to him by dialing his phone. Right. Now, that might be completely ape shit, and you're like, I can't believe people know this guy's phone number. Yeah. But the reverse of that, if I were to want to connect with VP Harris or President Biden, there's 50 people between me and that. I could write a note that maybe could get to somebody, then through Pony Express and a pigeon, something might end up in a mailbox near them. And I called DJT to say, yo, can I have an interview? He told me to go fuck myself, but I still was able to connect with him. Yeah.
But he still picked up.
Folks, these are lefties. Even the insane lefties are figuring it out right now. This guy has kicked your ass politically because he's relatable and likable. It does not change my imploring you to treat politicians like a spreadsheet at all. But I'm not a dumbass. If you like someone, it's just harder to criticize them. It just is. It's hard. I love my brothers. It's hard to criticize my brothers. When they do something wrong, I've got to do it, but it's hard. Donald Trump gets this better than anyone. It is amazing to me. I mean, like, really stunning and astonishing being privileged to be in this space. And I do mean that, not in a woke way. It is a privilege and a God-given honor to have an audience like you guys. We're not even 20 minutes in. We got 120,000 on a pre-holiday week. I freaking love you guys so much. It is a great honor. But I'm going to tell you something. It is really shocking to me in this position. I deal with a lot of politicians and a lot of people who cares, like I said, name droppings for dipshits. How many politicians do not get this? They cannot figure out how to be even remotely likable. 90% of them, if not more, are total assholes with huge egos. There's one in particular, I'm not going to say because it's not important. It's a spreadsheet thing, and it doesn't matter if you like him. I'm just telling you, I did a lot of work for this guy, and the guy could not be like, it's so frustrating. I'll give you a quick story about Donald Trump to show you this is true. There's let's just say a good friend, and the friend calls me and is asking me about some advice about something that Donald Trump's got to make a decision on. And I said to the friend, you need to call him. And the friend was like, no way. Call the president-elect. That's insane. Like, he'll never answer. I said, some of you know this story. I said, trust me, call him, and I promise you he will pick up. And if he doesn't, he'll call you back either in an hour, 2 hours, or the next day. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Judge Bongino was right. Sure enough, this friend calls, picks up the phone. Friend calls me back 20 minutes later. I can't believe it. Picked up the phone, and he was so nice. I told you. If the friend's watching, you know what I'm talking about. And the thing he got done. Because that's who he is. He's the most likable guy. This isn't a throwaway segment. You want to know how Donald Trump got this whole pocket of influencers? Because he was a really good guy with a good agenda and he understood personal politics, period. All right, I got to get to some bad news next. We talked about some good stuff, the transition, the art of personal politics, how this stuff works, makes it difficult to criticize people if they like you. He also sends you tweets signed, like he prints them out. Thank you for that. It's the kind of guy he is. This freaking CR, this budget they are proposing, is the biggest double-barreled middle finger to conservatives I've seen in a long time. I am not into Republican on Republican political violence. However, Speaker Johnson, we're back to the spreadsheet here. This is not even a -1. This CR is a -100. This is really bad. And if you let this thing go through, there are going to be a lot of upset people. Your political bank account is going to be drained. Capital, I'm talking about. Political capital bank account. Please, this is a mess. I'll just give you a couple lowlights and a couple congressmen who've been speaking out about this thing because this thing is a horror show. Let me take a quick break and we'll get back to that. Blackout coffee. Be awake, not woke. Have a hot, fresh, bold, never bitter. Actually, this is water today. I don't want to cheat on you. But it's almost always blackout coffee. Blackout coffee. Have the cinnamon French toast. You don't like the cinnamon French toast? Say, I don't like French toast. You like blueberry? Have the blueberry crumble. I like pie, but I like dark chocolate better. Blackout coffee's got a dark chocolate flavor too. They use premium grade coffee beans. It makes the coffee bold, but never bitter. A lot of people don't even know what premium grade coffee tastes like because they're used to drinking this crap low grade coffee beans. That's garbage. That's junk. It's brown water. It's bitter. That's not for you. The official coffee of the Dan Bongino Show and the Bongino Army is what? Blackout coffee. They ship within 48 hours of roasting. The flavor's incredible. It's fresh. It's bold. Do me a favor. Pick it up. Make this the official coffee of the Bongino Army. The owner of the company loves America a lot too, which helps me, but he's committed to really good coffee. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino. See what I'm talking about. They're the real deal. It's time to quit drinking woke corporate junk coffee every morning. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino. Use coupon code Bongino for 20% off your first order. Make America great again. Make coffee great again. Make the switch to Blackout Coffee. You're going to love it. Thank you, Blackout Coffee. We appreciate it. Folks, this CR, this continuing resolution, which would be a revolution in even more government spending, is a total disaster. On the spreadsheet front, where we think about politicians as spreadsheets, what is this bill? It is an absolute train wreck. We've got Doge coming up. This would basically fund the government through March 14th into next year. Obviously, the bill is a complete abomination and a train wreck. There are no highlights. There are a ton of lowlights. I picked out two. I mean, obviously, in addition to the massive amount of spending, there are no government cuts in this thing at all. Why we would pass this thing, I have absolutely no idea. Shut it down if you have to. There is no way we should fund this thing. Gabe Kaminsky points out in this tweet that the funding bill includes a 1-year extension on the State Department's Global Engagement Center. Global Engagement Center, you may be saying, what the hell is that? Well, what has two thumbs and can explain it to you? This cat right here. The Global Engagement Center was basically the censorship branch of the State Department. Why would we fund that into next year? I don't know, because you didn't read the bill. I have no idea. Kaminsky's got the section of it right there. Title 3, Foreign Affairs, Global Engagement Center Extension. This thing needs to be abolished immediately. You like being censored? You hearing all these stories now? Facebook and Google are all showing up at Mar-a-Lago. Let me just say to the Trump transition team, listen, man, I'm your friend. I think you know that, but I'm also a realist, and I'm a pretty good guy for advice, and the Bongino Army was there for you. Now you got to be there for us. Unless you can get a commitment from these guys to cut the bullshit, they should not be welcome at Mar-a-Lago. Facebook is still censoring. Google is still censoring. It's all bullshit. They're just afraid of regulation. I saw Cernovich put something out this morning with some names of people who he says were censored. I'm not sure if they were or weren't. I can tell you our Facebook page got crushed. I don't whine about it, but ladies and gentlemen, you can tell by the money. You can tell by the money. When your Facebook page reaches a lot of people, it makes a lot of money from ad revenue. Ours has been sliced in half. I don't give a shit about the money. That's not the point. The point is the reach of my page has been crushed by Facebook. We were the #1 conservative Facebook page in the world. They annihilated us. This is bullshit. Now we're funding the Global Engagement Center. What the hell are we doing? Whose dumbass idea was that? I thought President Trump just won a massive mandate. It's his party now. 90+% of Republicans approve of what's happening in this transition. And we're funding this shit, Bill? Here's a guy I'm really starting to like, this Congressman Burleson. He was on Newsmax. He was pushing back against this absolute shit CR. Speaker Johnson, again, this is just a spreadsheet for me. I'm not your enemy, okay? But I am the enemy of bad shit. This is really, really stupid. There's also, by the way, a carve-out for Obamacare in there because Obamacare sucks so bad. Members of Congress don't want to be in it, so they get to pull themselves out of Obamacare. I thought Obamacare was great. Not for members of Congress. Here's Burleson saying, hey, we just won. Don't we have a mandate? Why are we pushing through this shit bill? Check this out.
I was frustrated before I came here. Now I'm more frustrated that I'm here and I see how horrific and how much of a disaster our fiscal situation is, and the lack of appetite to actually do anything about it is disgusting to me. And so I expected more from my Republican colleagues. I expect more from my speaker to be the conservative that I thought that he was. But instead, we're going to push through, a hundreds of $billion package that's going to add more debt to our deficit to our debt, and we're going to, continue this reckless process. Look, we complained about Nancy Pelosi dropping thousands of pages of an omnibus bill before Christmas. How is this any different?
Producer Jim just noted, too, Congress gave themselves a raise in this. I'm not interested in giving these guys and women a raise. Why would we give them a raise? A raise for what? Like, well, we got to make the job more attractive. Really? You got to make the job more attractive? Thousands of people run for Congress every year so you can have people kiss their ass all day with lobbyists. I think they'll be fine. Burleson's right. Why are we catering? I get what you're afraid of. They're afraid of after the Trump election, what they've been afraid of for the last 20 years. You guys in the chat know what it is? They're afraid of the media is going to say we shut the government down. The media is going to say we're starving grandma. Folks, the media is going to say that anyway. It doesn't matter. Nobody listens to these idiots. Only 30% of America, according to that Gallup poll or whatever it was, trust the media. It doesn't matter. We're the media now. We should not be. I get you're not going to get everything you want right now. I understand that. Trump has not been sworn in yet. The new Congress isn't there yet. We still don't have the Senate. I get it. But my gosh, at least put up a fight against this. Are we serious about preventing this inevitable bankruptcy of the United States of America or not? Here's Chip Roy, one of the few consistent voices on cutting government spending, saying exactly right. Folks, we are going to have to be honest with the American people about our natural trajectory towards a bankruptcy cliff. There is a lot of stuff that's going to have to go. Government goodies are not government goodies. There's money stolen from you by the government and given to other people. Here's Chip Roy calling them out, saying, hey, man, this is all bullshit. They're all just pretending. These people don't want to cut spending. Listen to this.
The conference needs to decide whether we're actually serious about spending. And they talk about, well, we got to do mandatory spending reform and bend the curve. But we just voted on a $200 billion shift of dollars in Social Security that's going to shorten the time when Social Security expires or goes bankrupt. We're just fundamentally unserious about spending. And as long as you got a blank check, you can't shrink government. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free.
Do you plan on supporting the Speaker in January?
Listen to me. Bongino Army, friends, colleagues, some of you watch my show. We just had a massive seismic shift election, a landslide by any objective measure, considering the political winds of the time. Donald Trump won because of 2 or 3 big issues: the border, inflation, probably public safety, and a couple of other things you can throw in there. But there's zero question, based on exit polling, that inflation had a ton to do with it. People said, I don't want inflation. I want Donald Trump back when inflation was under 2%. What causes inflation? Anyone know in the chat? It's not hard. Government prints money to make up for the shortfall it doesn't have. When it prints money, it goes into the economy and drives up prices. This isn't hard. If you helicopter drop a bunch of money on an island that only has $100 and you drop $1,000, everything's going to cost more because there's now $1,100 chasing the products on the island. This isn't difficult. We have to start making the case in these like Ross Perot, like half an hour commercials on TV to America, how the government taking your money, spending it, and then printing more when it doesn't have enough money to take from you is causing the inflation crisis, and it's going to have to stop. This isn't a hard argument to make. They just don't want to do it. No more spending more than we take in. It's going to take time, but we've got to start somewhere. Every single freaking bill, omnibus, CRs, budget bills, every single department bill comes, oh, you know what? We'll kick the can down the road. We'll get them next time. We won't get them next time. We're going to do it this time. I'll take a quick break. And I've got a conspiracy theory update. Our batting average, fellas, 1,000 is correct. Still. Never wrong. I told you. Media people, every single time they call something a conspiracy theory, go out and bet on one of those betting sites on it. You'll make yourself millions. It's the craziest thing. How many times are you dipshits going to screw this up? How many times? How many times? Can you get one right? You would think by accident these assholes would get one right. Just one. What? These guys, so let me give you a little inside joke. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off track. So because these guys are the production crew, they know I got to keep the show on a timeline because the radio show starts at noon and it's live. So there's no time to mess around here. So we've obviously got to pay for the show. So we have sponsors we love. We are capitalists, but it keeps the show free for you all, right? So if I'm not on track, Guy and Michael and Justin have these various ways to get me to read the spot. So I'm talking about the media, and he's, you know, would cheer everybody up. Maybe a package of Omaha steaks. That's crazy. That's the next one. That's amazing how you guys did that. And then they throw the thing on the screen, which I can see, which is a signal. Like, read the spot. You guys are getting good at this. You got that from Guy, though. Guy started that. He started it with Beam Dream. That's how he started. Omaha Steaks, the perfect gift to deliver comfort and joy to the ones you love with curated gift packages. Omaha Steaks consistently delivers unrivaled quality and taste. Hand-selected by master butchers from the finest grass-finished beef. Extra aged, flash frozen to peak flavor. Delivered right to you. Taste delicious. Deliver the perfect gift with 50% off. That's a huge savings at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code Bongino at checkout. Minimum purchase and restriction may apply. The steaks are amazing. The burgers are amazing. We love their food. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to shop with expertly crafted gift packages. Every steak is perfectly aged for maximum tenderness, hand-cut by master butchers in the heartland. Grass-fed, grain-finished beef with more marbling for exceptional flavor. It's a choice of steakhouses and professional chefs around the world. The fan-favorite filet mignons earn the coveted distinction of USDA certified tender. Give the gift of comfort and joy with Omaha Steaks. Go to omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide. Get unforgettable gifts and more. For an extra $30 off, use promo code Bongino at checkout. Minimum purchase may apply. It's 50% off at omahasteaks.com, OMAHA, and an extra $30 off with promo code Bongino at checkout. And our last sponsor today is MyPillow. Get some sleep. They're announcing their Christmas extravaganza. It's finally here. Get the season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. Won't last long. Get them while you can. The famous My Slippers haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Six-piece towel sets back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98 with hundreds of MyPillow products. There's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. Don't forget the Classic Collection pillows at wholesale pricing. For a standard pillow, only $14.88. Queen size, $18.88. A king for just $1 more. Body pillows for just $29.98. Multi-use pillows, $9.88. Go to mypillow.com or call 800-637-4982. Be sure to use promo code Dan to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets as low as $59.98. Six-piece towel sets $29.98, but that's not all. Extend their 60-day money-back guarantee now until March 1st, 2025, plus all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-637-4982 and use promo code Dan. Thanks, MyPillow. All right, back to the show. Conspiracy theory update again. The batting average remains. Look at this. I'm not even a lefty. Look at this. Look at this Will Clark-like swing. Remember Sweetness? Will Clark played for the Giants. Look at this. Look at this. You like that? Look at that. Nice and smooth. Elbow in, right to the ball, eyes down there. You like that? Batting average is a freaking 1,000. Even Will Clark never batted 1,000. Wasn't even close. The great Ted Williams. Wasn't he the last guy to hit 400? George Brett got close. 1,000. New York Times. Remember when the New York Times told us the Aurora, Colorado gang takeover story? That is a false story. They didn't say that. Put it up on the screen, kids. How the false story of a gang takeover in Colorado reached Donald Trump. Holy shit. Can you guys get a freaking story right ever? Jonathan Weissman at the New York Times, Stuart Thompson, anyone? Stuart Thompson says we live in an alternate reality bubble. Dumbass Stuart, have you ever put a reflective object in front of you and said, man, maybe we live in an alternate reality? How the false story of a gang takeover in Colorado reached Trump? Fox News from yesterday about the gang takeover in Aurora, Colorado, which, by the way, a police supervisor came out today and is absolutely sure this is gang related. Check this out.
Okay, Aurora, Colorado now. This is a live look now. The sun is up there in that state, and police have now detained 14 people and reported armed home invasion. That's the same apartment complex where a lot of people were complaining about the armed Venezuelan gang members roaming the halls. Reports indicate that investigators said that several suspects entered the apartment and had two people inside. The suspects then reportedly moved the victims to another apartment complex, or rather another unit on the property where police said they were found threatened and bound.
Can someone send that story, please? Bongino Army members, I have a task for you, please. It's not an order. I don't give orders. A request. Can you please send this link over to Stuart Thompson to the show and ask him to explain the alternate reality the New York Times lives in? They can never, ever get a story right. I have never seen an outlet claiming to be full of journalists that is so stupid. Everything they tell you is bullshit. Do you understand this? Everything they tell you is bullshit. Here's another one. Remember when we were told Joe Biden has nothing to do with these weaponized government prosecutions of Donald Trump? That's a conspiracy theory. You guys are making this up. Joe Biden's an innocent victim. He said he was hands off on all of this. Batting average 1,000. Conspiracy theory update. Now, breaking news. We find out that the Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, Georgia prosecution of Donald Trump, that there were meetings at the White House. I thought we were told that was a conspiracy theory. Amazing how these conspiracy theories just keep piling up and turned out to be not conspiracy theories, but conspiracy facts. Take a look.
Georgia prosecutor in the Trump election meddling case testifies before the House Judiciary Committee. That's Nathan Wade. And he admitted he met with White House staff on several occasions while working on the investigation that was led by Fulton County DA Fani Willis. He also says he had to brush up on his knowledge of racketeering law. So that continues.
Folks, watch. Smooth. We make contact every time. Every time. Bunts, home runs, triples, doubles. And we told you. Why did we tell you that was happening? Because a bunch of conservative sleuths on Twitter, X, and True Social putting out there was a substantial body of evidence that there were visits between the White House and the Georgia prosecution. But of course, the Stuart Thompson New York Times told you probably that was a conspiracy theory too, because that's the best they can do. And yet another conspiracy theory update. I don't know if you guys remember this story, but this is a story sensitive to my heart that got a lot of your attention when I initially reported it. You remember this goofball, Cassidy Hutchinson? If you don't remember who she is, she used to work in the Trump White House. So the January 6th sham Hollywood-produced movies going on with Benny Thompson, Crying Adam Kinzinger, and these other losers, Liz Cheney and others. And this crazy story comes out from Cassidy Hutchinson claiming that Donald Trump tried to commandeer the presidential limo and did like some jujitsu move on the limo driver on January 6th because they wouldn't take him to the Capitol. Now, I should have done this, guys. I should have had you guys pull this. I don't know if you remember the segment I did on this, but she's saying she heard this story from a Secret Service agent detailed to the White House who told her this story, and that the time, the guy who was the agent in charge of Trump's detail, and the names are important here. The agent in charge of detail was Bob Engel. The agent in the White House that the allegations where the story flowed through was a guy by the name of Tony Ornato, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I know both of these guys for a long time. One was a White Plains guy when I was in New York. We worked together all the time. We worked together on the detail. The other guy was also up in that New York area, a New York type agent, worked with him forever. I've known these guys forever. I also know people that know these guys. What are you looking at? What's wrong? Oh, he's like staring at me all weird. He's doing some like Jedi mind trick on me. The guy in the limo was Bobby Engel. If there was an attack on the driver by Donald Trump, doing some jujitsu move and some kind of triangle choke or rear naked choke on the driver, Bobby Engel would have seen it. Numerous sources told me this story is bullshit. Donald Trump never attacked the driver. There was never an argument about going up to Capitol Hill on January 6th. This is totally made up. Now, again, Stuart Thompson's alternate reality. Reality was this show. The alternate reality were those assholes. You're at least 2 years ahead of this story. I told you it was bullshit. Now we find out that Cassidy Hutchinson and Liz Cheney may have been engaged in a back and forth kind of collusion thing here. And that may be the genesis of this fake UFC fight limo story. Here's John Solomon on this exact thing. And let me tell you something. Liz Cheney and Cassidy Hutchinson could find themselves in a lot of trouble if the Department of Justice wants to look into this. This could be witness tampering. Check this out.
Administration Subcommittee on Oversight, the committee that's been investigating January 6th, just released its final report for this year. It accuses Liz Cheney of tampering with the witness, Cassidy Hutchinson, trying to influence her testimony. It formally recommends that the Federal Bureau of Investigation criminally investigate Liz Cheney when President Trump takes over on January 20th. One of several bombshell revelations in here. The report also says that Jack Smith colluded with the January 6th committee, but that some of the evidence has not yet been turned over to Congress. They're demanding that that evidence be turned over, something that might happen when the new administration takes over. But a really significant and rare moment for Congress to actually suggest that one of its members should be criminally prosecuted for tampering with a witness in an official government proceeding, a House hearing, the January 6th House hearing. As you remember, Cassidy Hutchinson was the bombshell witness for the Democrats, claimed that Donald Trump tried to commandeer the presidential limousine, take it to the Capitol. We now know that wasn't true. The Secret Service had already told Liz Cheney it wasn't true. She presented the evidence anyways to the American public, tried to give it credence. There's some other testimony where Cassidy Hutchinson talks about a document she claims she wrote it. She didn't. Someone else wrote it. All of that is laid out in this report. But the headline is Liz Cheney could be facing an FBI criminal investigation based on this information that Congress has transmitted this morning.
Folks, if you're bored, only if you're bored, go back and listen to my interview with President Trump that I did, about a week before the election up in New York. I went up to Trump Tower. We cover this at the end, and Donald Trump laughed at this story. And do you remember what he said? You folks in the chat, you listen. You remember what he said? Trump said, I should have told you the story was true. It makes me look like a badass. I took out 2 highly trained Secret Service agents in the front seat with some jujitsu move and commandeered a limo. Like, damn, that's pretty badass for a guy who's not young. He's not in his 40s. He's not in his 30s anymore. The story was bullshit. I know all these guys. I know all the players. It didn't happen. Post-millennial. The House report that came out about this yesterday, by the way, that's where all this is coming from, recommends the FBI investigate Liz Cheney over alleged witness tampering. Yes, more Kylo freaking Ren style. More. Liz Cheney, ladies and gentlemen, I have zero doubt, knew this story was suspect at best. Now do you see why this January 6th committee deleted, what is it, a terabyte of data? What was in that data? Was there some back and forth over the veracity of this story? Like, hey, man, I'm not sure this Cassidy Hutchinson story is the most reliable thing. And they ran with it anyway? You want to see why they're afraid of Kash Patel? Listen to this, but I want you to pay very close attention to the end. This was recorded a while ago. Kash knows this January 6th committee knows about the pipe bomb. They probably know the identity of the person. They know about the feds in the crowd. And they know about all the lying that went on about the national security, the UFC fight in a limo, all of it. And magically, a terabyte of data disappeared. Listen to the end of this. It's really important. Check this out.
The other thing that I put in the book that I recommended the boss to do hits on this. We need a 24/7 declassification office.
Yes.
Rolling papers out 24/7. And not just like JFK and not just 9/11. You're talking to the guy that's read the whole 9/11 report and those 7 pages that people talk about. But I believe, as like the guy who is an intel guy who believes wholeheartedly in the classified system of information, I believe that it has been over-abused by these corrupt officials in government to hide the truth and enact more corrupt activities. So what I told the boss was like, I don't care what you call it, truth and reconciliation, whatever, come up with a better name. But every agency and department literally submits all of their documentation. And I believe you could get half out. Half. I still think the other half needs to remain classified. I'll always argue that it does serve a purpose. But like you're seeing in these documents in the Jack Smith case, they're just redacting stuff that they lied about, that they broke the law.
All that stuff. Terabytes of information, ladies and gentlemen. Classified, gone, disappeared. You see why they're so afraid of Kash Patel? You see why my golden rule of policy and appointments matters? Always gauge the effectiveness of a policy or an appointment or some judge selection or FBI director by the reaction of your political enemies. If they freak out, it's for a reason. It's not an accident, man. That's why they don't want him in there. They don't want him looking into this. I'm not letting any of this go, folks. We are the media now. The identity of the pipe bomber on January 6th is going to shock your soul. Maybe not the name you made, but who the person was and was working with. The extent of federal involvement in the insurrection is going to shock you to your core. It's the biggest scandal of our time. Stuart Thompson and the dumbass New York Times will continue to be 5-6 years behind these stories because they're only interested in covering them up. I'm not letting any of this go. On a bit of a lighter note, we're the media now. I want to play this clip of Van Jones. Van Jones, a devout leftist. Once in a while, he'll say something that makes some modicum of sense, but I don't, whatever. I don't even care. But I do care about this because I'll bet, I don't want to say this I don't mean this in any kind of a nasty tone, but folks, the media environment is changing. You need to understand these terms. If you don't, you're going to be left behind. Live streaming, VOD, OTT, over the top, cable broadcast. They're not all the same thing. This isn't a whole media lesson today, but these younger kids, anyone basically 25 years or younger, Justin, tell me if I'm crazy. You're the only one maybe not, are you? But you're the one who fits that criteria best right now. They're not watching cable news anymore, folks. They're just not. Justin said correct if you didn't hear him. They're not watching it. They're watching YouTube. They're watching Twitch. They're watching Rumble. They're watching X. They're on Snapchat. They're watching TikTok, and a lot of it. You can watch a whole movie on TikTok in 3-minute clips. I'm serious. You can watch Moneyball, the whole movie it's in clips, but you just keep scrolling, and it'll go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It's the most amazing thing. Live streaming is what you are watching right now. Well, I shouldn't say that. You may be VOD too in an hour. If you are watching at 11:49 and 19 seconds Eastern time right now, you are watching a live stream. It is a live broadcast over the internet. It's not on a cable channel. It's not on a broadcast channel, okay? That's what a live stream is. Live streaming is the future. What does that have to do with Van Jones? Van Jones is stunned that the Trump team knew about live streaming and the Democrats didn't. This is it. We have, look at it right now. We have 100, this is the week before Christmas. The big house in Michigan, how many people does it fit? 100,000? The football stadium? We have 141,600 people here at noon, right before noon, watching this show. You can't ignore this audience. Van Jones and the Democrats didn't know anything about it. They don't know the other names in this either. Here, watch this. We are sneaking up on these guys. They are still stuck in yesterday's technology. Check this out.
I asked I got a teenage son. I asked him, who are the most influential people in the world today? I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z. He says, Kai Cent, Aiden Ross, Jinxie, and Sketch. I don't know who he's talking about. I said, what platforms are you on? He goes, I'm on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. I said, that sounds like you need to go to the hospital. What are these platforms? I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream. There are platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news getting 1 or 2 million. And so there is a whole world out there. Kellyanne Conway, I hate to agree with her, but I do a lot of times. Donald Trump understood that, and we didn't.
Yes, sir, he did. You caught that, right? Van Jones and the Democrats know so little about how to get a message out on the left, and I applaud him for at least acknowledging it. He's not hiding here. That they called Kai Cenat Kai Cent. If you don't know who Kai Cenat is, you know nothing about live streaming. Now, you may say, well, Kai Cenat is basically an influencer out there. He has a show. It's ridiculously popular. He's one of the few guys who will beat us on a live stream. We were number one last night and the night before. We had beat Kai. Kai will beat us a lot, though. Who's Kai Cenat? He is a really funny kid who has a show, young man, and he gets millions of people watching that thing and hundreds of thousands on live stream. If you don't know that, get the hell out of politics. I'm sorry. He has an audience and you don't. And it's not Kai Cent. It's Kai Cenat. Who's Aiden Ross? Same thing. A massive young influencer with a huge audience. If you don't know who he is, get out of politics. There's something significant about Aiden Ross. What's significant? Donald Trump did his show, a month before the election? And 500,000 streamers tuned in. I think it was like the third or fourth biggest live stream of the entire year. That's who Aiden Ross is. They don't even know who he is. Jinxie, these are all gamers. Then I love he doesn't even know the platforms. Kick, you don't know what Kick is? Twitch, Rumble, you've never heard of Rumble. The biggest live streamer in the world, and 3 of the top 10 are on Rumble. Bannon, Crowder, and me. If you don't know anything about Rumble, get the hell out of politics. We have blindsided these people on technology, and Donald Trump gets it. The left is totally behind. They really believe people like Rachel Maddow and MSNBC and Stuart Thompson at the New York Times are controlling the dialogue. Why would you believe that? You keep getting your ass kicked on messages, on political national elections. The entire political climate of the country is changing because you don't understand how to get a message out. They still believe in stuff like this. You got that Rachel Maddow clip. Hat tip the great Maze Moore, a great follow on X, MazeMoore, a really great account. Here's Maze Moore. Here's Rachel Maddow. They believe this shit. Here she is. You're going to hear her in 2016 touting a fake news poll out of South Carolina before they got their ass kicked in that election. Then you're going to hear her in 2024 touting another fake news poll out of Iowa. You want to know why the left believes shit like this? Because they don't know who Kai Cenat, Aiden Ross, and Jinxie are. That's why. They have no idea what's coming in this new era of media consumption. Check this out.
Hot off the presses, we are breaking this news right here, right now. You're going to think I'm kidding, but the presidential race appears to be tied in South Carolina. Yes, I said South Carolina, not North Carolina. South Carolina. And that's why lots of people had strong reactions when the Des Moines Register and Seltzer Iowa poll was posted last night. this pollster, and she's got her track record, and this is out of a state where nobody saw it coming.
Why would you believe stupid shit like that? Because you're consuming yesterday's media that only has a small sliver of America as a dedicated eyeball audience. The rest of America are elsewhere. They're on Rumble. They're on Twitch. They're on YouTube. They're on Truth. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm not trying to coach you on how to be better, but you can continue to shit on Rumble all you want. The bottom line is we're winning and you're losing. Even Van Jones' kid is watching. You think it's an accident that now close to 142,000 people are here? Ladies and gentlemen, it's freaking lunchtime. We're not even on in prime time. You may say, 142,000 people. Dan, CNN will get 800,000 at night. You ever see our VOD numbers, video on demand? In other words, people who watch the show after it's live, they're over 1 million every single night. That doesn't even count Apple and Spotify. And it's not just us. We're the media now. Here's a great clip by Michael Schellenberger. People are catching on. That nobody believes these people anymore. Talking about this drone story and why nobody trusts the government anymore or the Rachel Maddows of the world, because they constantly lie about everything. Check this out.
Last week, you had both DoD spokesperson John Kirby and Mayorkas, the head of DHS, insist emphatically that there had been no drone flyovers over U.S. military bases. Well, that night, actually on Friday night and then Saturday morning, there was a flyover of the Wright-Patterson Air Base in Ohio. And in fact, it's been widely reported. So it's curious why they said that. Yesterday, then Kirby came out and said, well, of course, we all know that there had been these drone flyovers. He also said on Friday to Martha McCallum, he said, Kirby said, that they were investigating these cases. And then yesterday, he said that they had closely examined 5,000 cases. Are we to be led to believe that they examined 5,000 cases? 5,000, it's actually 6,000 according to FBI, but 6,000 people were interviewed, asked where they were, what direction they were pointed in. It just strains credulity for them to say these things. It really undermines the trust, and that's why you see conspiracy theories emerging into the vacuum.
Folks, we're the media now. By the way, I haven't covered the drone thing that much in the last couple of days because I don't want to saturate you. There's a lot going on. The CR, the transition, there's bigger stories. However, you may not trust Mike McFaul. He's a Republican congressman. You may or may not, but I'll play the clip for you tomorrow. He does have some inside information and seems to indicate that these are, in fact, drones. Some of them, just like I told you, that are from China, a foreign adversary. You don't have to believe him. You don't have to believe me. I'm just saying the overwhelming amount of evidence points in that direction, that at least some of these things that are still unexplained are being left unexplained for a reason, because the government doesn't want to tell you how shitty of a job they're doing protecting our airspace. Hey, man, listen, I can't thank you enough for your support of Rumble. Like I said, when even Van Jones's kid is watching Rumble, it's pretty crazy. Like, I'm pretty floored that this platform's exploded. Please help us out. Join Rumble. Download the Rumble app. It is free. Give us a follow while you're there. Look up the Dan Bongino Show. You can also just watch it on desktop at rumble.com/Bongino. And please help us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. Give us a follow on those platforms at Dan Bongino Show. See you here on the radio show in a few minutes. And back here live tomorrow at 11 a.m. See you then.
You just heard the Dan Bongino Show.